Chapter 26, Reading Bones. At 7 p.m. the following day, an LAPD press release offered Travis Huck's name to the media. The timing was fine-tuned. Too late for the papers or the 6 o'clock news, early enough for a feed to the 11 o'clock broadcast. Or in D.C., Henry Weinberg's words, a trickle, not a flood. "We're vulnerable, Lieutenant." Departmental spinners described Huck as a person of interest and included a prior felony conviction. None of the 4 women found in the marsh was mentioned by name. The Vanders never came up in the interim. Milo and Reed and I did walkthroughs of both Vanders' residence. We hit the beach front her house first, found no evidence the family had ever lived there. Soggy leather furniture sat on the purple wall-to-wall, and the smell was salt, rust, and an old paint sourness that shouted disuse. Oars and man's wet suit in the closet said the place hadn't progressed much past bachelor pad. Heavy twin doors at the mansion and Calais Martino opened to the loose chain of high, broad vanilla rooms, tastefully if blandly furnished, floored with golden limestone. Family photos tilted on the couple of mantels. Abstract art hung in the spaces where windows didn't dominate. A grand piano took up a corner of the vanorous back room, and a spinet piano sat in the Kelvin sky blue bedroom. Travis Huck's quarters consisted of a smallish room past a vast Carter's kitchen and a lav, twin bed, IKEA dresser, aluminum reading lamp, mosaic but cheered by an ocean view. Placement in the service wing, so the space had been designed as a maid's room. No sign of a struggle or body fluids there or anywhere else, but Milo's called for a crime scene team. The legal assistant, Buddy Ware, sent in to keep watch, looked alarmed, but she checked with the attorney, and he told her to cooperate. Given a huge backlog, the techs were expected within days, and Milo called to the crime scene office didn't change that. He tried the chief and couldn't get through, smiled grimly. Mo Reed said, "Keeping it in the low gear. Heaven forbid, kiddo." Reed smiled. "I'm learning." I left the detectives to their frustration and drove home. The discovery of Selena's lover had scrambled my theories about the 3 other women being a rehearsal for her. The case was holding down to another hideous pattern of sexual sadism, a killer building up his confidence, and Selena the unlikely upgrade. I phoned Mark Green to see if there was anything more to tease out. He'd been hovering on the brink of a rage. My voice pushed him over. I waited until he stopped shouting. "I know it's tough, but I still need to ask. Is there anything more More, all that shit I just told them isn't enough?" Slam. I drove to the Crenshaw district and I paid a second visit to the Bingstrix Chenoweth, Big Laura's mother, ready to serve as an anger receptacle again. If anyone was trained for that I was. She saw me in graciously served coffee and chocolate wafers, waited me out as I approached the topic with such tact that I could muster. She said, "Let me understand this. You want to know if Lorraine liked being hurt. We've found evidence of that in our victims, so the answer is yes, doctor. I didn't mention it the first time because I was so stunned when you all dropped in. I've been thinking about calling, but talking about that kind of thing is hard. I won't pretend Lorraine and I were close, but she was my child, and imagining what happened to her hurts me terribly. I'm sorry. Any progress?" "Not so far. But you've got other victims who, oh, Lord. Lorraine's time on the streets. Part of me has been waiting for this." Thin, square shoulders rose and fell. Her hands shook. "Did she like being hurt?" "When she was a child, just the opposite. Lorraine was the one hitting other people and getting into trouble over it. I kept telling her being big meant that she needed to be doubtably responsible." Frown. "It wasn't until later, when I realized what a problem her weight was, that I knew that she said exactly the wrong thing. Did she like being hurt? Apparently, yes. I'm talking about later, when she was out of the house working. She grabbed for a hanky, snatched a sudden burst of tears, and as if that's a job, clearing her throat. She put steel in her voice. A couple of times when she came by for money, I noticed bruises. Here, fingering both sides of her own neck. At first I wasn't sure they were bruises. Lorraine was dark, took after her father, and the first time that she was trying to cover it wearing a scarf, which is exactly why I noticed. Lorraine never wore scarves. I spotted something purple beneath the fabric, put my finger there, and she slapped it away. Wincing, hard, not just a love pat, but I can be as ping-headed as she can, and I persisted, and she got terribly angry and ripped it off and the scarf and said, "Happy?" I said, "I'm not happy if someone hurt you, Lorraine." She said, no one hurt me in any way. I don't want to be hurt." Then she smirked, and I was appalled, and that amused her. She rolled up her sleeves, and I said, "Here it comes. She'll throw off her needle marks. What else does this girl have planned to disappoint me?" But instead, she displayed more bruises on her wrists, and I repelled and turned away, and that fueled her. She told me people were willing to pay for extras, and she had the confidence to handle anything. Of course, I got preachy, told her dangerous ways led to why bore you. She laughed at me and left, smiling. "That's the whole of it, sir," I said. "You have been through a lot. My other girls are doing well. May I pour you more coffee?" "Laura, too. Now it's a hat trick," said Milo. I'd pull up to the station just as he stepped out the front door and began walking. "All this exercise," I said. "I'm starting to worry about you." "Afternoon, constitutional at a non-Arabic pace," he said. "Walls tend to close in when I'm feeling useless. You probably jogged 5 miles this morning." We passed the same houses and apartments. This time, the sky stayed gray and the air was soupy and lazy, he said. "Airport cops found the Vanders' Lexus in the LAX long-term lot, but we can't find evidence Huck flew anywhere. Oldest trick in the book. Young Moses and I have been canvassing nearby hotels and motels anyway. Same for the fancy places from San Francisco to Santa Barbara looking for the Vanders. We also tried private charters, Zippo on all counts. This is smelling like a wild man on a rampage, and he's long gone. 4 sadistic sexual murderers playing with the bones of 3 victims," I said. "Then Duboff, then the Vanders. Hard to see them theme there. Does there need to be?" he said. "That asshole in Kansas killed women, men, kids, whoever he found in the house. Same for Ramirez, Zodiac, blah, blah, blah. In those cases, the males are collateral damage. The same could be true here. How about this for a theoretical? Huck's words for Vanders for 3 years develops a leech for Nadine. Before he can have his way with her, he needs to get rid of hubby and kid. He manages to get them back from Asia. He lied about something that got them back. These guys are all about control, right? You can think of a better power trip than moving rich folk around like chess pieces. He came nosing around after Selena. He figures it's only a matter of time, so he splits. I thought about that. A family emergency might have worked as ruse. Simon's been hurt, or she's sick, and Simon and Nadine trusted Huck, so no reason to verify. But how does Duboff fit in? When we nabbed Huck, I'll find out. Let's face it, Alex, when you cut through all the bullshit, this ain't a whodunit. We had the prime suspect in our sights right off the bat. He had good reason to sweat. 10 steps later, God only knows what Huck was doing all those under the radar years before the Vanders took him in. So, of course, he repays them in a methodically consistent manner. No good deed, I said. I'm amending it, he said. No good deed goes untied up and bloodied and degraded and bumped like garbage. Too long for a bumper sticker. Chapter 27. Limited TV exposure brought in 34 sightings of Edward T. Huckstrader, a.k.a. Travis Huck. Milo and Mo Reed spent 2 days chasing air. A man who'd worked at the youth authority when Huck was in custody informed Reed that Huck had been giving him the willies. Always crybabying about something. But those eyes are of his, mean, said Reed. Crafty, you know. Like when you were there plotting something. I would have never let him in or let him out. He'd do anything bad while he was in, and not that I remember, but so what? I was right. Those types get all coiled up and wait like snakes. Huck's name didn't show up in the passengers' logs or trains and buses leaving L.A., but a metro ticket paid for in cash would have provided easy escape. And after some lawyering, hedging, Buddy Ware consented to have the Vanders Lexus examined at the LAPD motor lab. But please, Lieutenant, no damage. I don't want Simon and Nadine returning home to that kind of thing. No one was paying any attention to Silver Duboff murder, but I couldn't let it go of it. I called Alma Reynolds, listened to the phone ring. No voicemail, and she'd bragged about no call, or no cell for her or Sil, maybe no computer or TV either. I wondered if she'd heard about the search for Travis Huck. She'd retired from teaching college. Hadn't mentioned another job. I called Milo to see if the file contained a work number. He was over at the airport, rescanning departure records, and I spoke to Mo Reed. He said, let me check. Here it is. Doctor's office, West LA. What are you figuring that she can tell you? Probably nothing. Do you do this a lot? You do this a lot, huh? Helping out. When he asks you to check Reynolds. Sometimes I improvise. Yeah, said Mo Reed. He told me that. Given Alma Reynolds' lifestyle, my bet was on some sort of holistic practice for her employer, but her boss turned out to be a conventional apologist in a conventional building on Sepulveda near Olympic. The waiting room was full. Small print brochures for LASIK or LASIK were the preferred reading material. Reynolds' job title was office coordinator, and the receptionist at the front seemed happy for the break-in routine. About my age, with short dark hair and an easy smile. Sorry, she's gone to lunch. 2:45, I said, kind of late. We were swamped all morning. I guess she didn't have time till now. Any idea where she eats? This about her boyfriend? It is. She talk about him. Just that she misses him. Wants to see whoever did such a terrible thing. Pay. You don't wear contacts, do you? Nope. Thought so. She said, your eyes are that natural gray blue. With colored lenses, they tend to overdo the blue. Alma likes Mexican, and there's a strip mall 3 blocks west. The mall provided easy parking and 6 authentic restaurants. Alma Reynolds was the sole patron on Cocina de Camba, sitting in a blue molded resin booth, enjoying blue corn fish tacos and a can of Coke Zero. Despite the heat, she had on the same mannish wool slacks below a white V-neck that made her look 10 pounds lighter than the work shirt that she'd worn at the station. Long gray hair was tied back in the ponytail, and I thought I spotted makeup around wrinkled lines. Bright blue eyes made me wonder about cosmetic lenses. I waved. She slapped a hand on her chest. Stalking me? Only in the service of public safety. May I sit down? Can I stop you? If not, it's no good. Or it's not a good. Just kidding, Centrace. I think that's the right word. When it in combo, do as the Cambodians do. Her big jaw jutted and the blue eyes lowered to her taco. Sil was a vegan, and I eat fish from time to time. I was wondering if you've come up with any other ideas. Her mouth narrowed. Citizen participation. The answer is no. One thing we're still trying to figure out is how Sil fits the other murders. Maybe he doesn't. I waited. That's all, she said. Maybe he doesn't. One of those lunatic copycats. Unless the scumbag who lured him over was trying to hide something about the first murders. Lured him with the promise to help him solve the other murders. The hand on her chest shifted, and I spotted a glint of gold. She moved her fingers back in position. Yes, Do you think it could have been someone who knew Sil well enough to push his buttons, such as a friend, even an accomplice who understood his attachment to the marsh? His friend was me, she said. Same for the acquaintance, limited social circle by choice. People can be tiresome. What about someone who knew him indirectly through his work? That's a possibility, but he never mentioned a name. We can't seem to find a membership roster for Save the Marsh. That's because it's not a real group. In the beginning, after Silver rescued the marsh from the BS boys, billionaire scum, a board was established, but that was just rich people trying to feel victorious. No meetings were ever held. For all practical purposes,